Hi, Dr. Schaeferman here. So I wanted to jump into why the heck am I so bloated? So that's one of the number one things that people come in asking. Why am I bloated? I don't understand what's causing my bloating. Doesn't really have rhyme or reason to it. So first, what the heck is bloating? So bloating is when we have the sensation of air buildup within the abdomen. Some people will describe bloating as like a sense of swelling. That is technically a little bit different. So like I was saying, bloating specifically is a buildup of excess air or gas within the abdomen. And sometimes it actually, when we get into the nitty-gritty, matters why we're experiencing it, what timing we're experiencing it, and what the actual buildup is, whether it's what forms of gas or air is present. One of the number one things that we want to kind of dive into and figure out is the cause behind what bloating is actually coming from. So I kind of break it into different categories. One, is it a motility issue? Meaning, are we not having regular bowel movements? We have a buildup of gas merely due to the fact that things aren't moving forward effectively. If we're having bowel movements less than once per day, bloating can be present simply because that's too little. We can also have bloating, when we have daily bowel movements, but maybe they're incomplete. So whether we have a shape of stool that is really hard, or if we are having what we think is a well-formed stool, but we're not able to completely evacuate. So we end up with some blockage backup in the bowel itself. Both of those can contribute to bloating. Another component that we always have to think about when we're thinking about bloating is what gases are present. So if we are experiencing bloating that's worse as the day goes on, maybe it is triggered with first thing that we're putting into our body, whether that's like just plain old water or food, or if we see bloating that is more exacerbated with specific foods, we have to think about SIBO. SIBO is an acronym, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. There are a variety of SIBO types that are present. One, the most classic SIBO is hydrogen SIBO. So this is the actual production of hydrogen based in the abdomen from different bacteria themselves. When hydrogen builds up within the abdomen, we typically have other symptoms accompanying it, such as diarrhea. The other types of SIBO are things like hydrogen sulfide SIBO. That is probably one of our least identified. There aren't as many standard testing options that test for hydrogen sulfide gas specifically. It is typically very stinky in nature. It's usually really painful, and in it too can produce more of a diarrhea type picture. The other type of SIBO has actually been reclassified as IMO, and it is the production of methane gas, actually from an archaea, not a bacteria. And so the methanogenesis or production of methane gas is where its name is coming from. That typically creates more of a really slow, constipated type picture, and those also can be really hard stools. That's one of the other important pieces of understanding what gases are available, because each of those varieties I'm treating really differently, because not only is your symptom picture different, but your causation is also different. So we need to dive in and really understand what we're treating so we can get you the outcomes that you deserve. Other rationale or other common causes of bloating would actually be irritation or inflammation from specific foods. So this is when we might be experiencing something like lactose intolerance, for example. The vast majority of us are not able to break down lactose well, which is the sugar product in dairy. And that can contribute to lots of inflammation and by consequence, bloating. So There are many reasons that bloating can happen. Those are just to name a few, but it's important to first and foremost figure out why you're experiencing bloating so we can get you not only a result, but a lasting result with a true solution to why you're experiencing bloating. Quick tips and tricks to ditch the bloating. So we always want to think about really what the roots to bloating are. So we want to be specific and impact those components when we're thinking about treatment. So quick, easy things to consider are, what is our motility looking like? How frequently are we having a bowel movement? So one of the simplest things that we can do is incorporate in more water to encourage more regular bowel movements. I very commonly am talking about the importance of adding in electrolytes so that way we're actually achieving hydration and not just adding more fluid into the system. So electrolytes actually help us put water to good use and truly change our hydration status. So when you're talking to me, I'm almost always going to ask you to think about electrolytes, and I want you to think about the good stuff, not Gatorade or Powerade or Liquid IV, but some of the components that are better balanced but also don't have so much sugar added to them. Other pieces that I'm thinking about when it comes to bloating are a group of herbs that are called carminatives. So carminative herbs really help reduce bloating by improving motility, changing our inflammatory picture, and they actually have the ability to reduce gas production. Some of these herbs have really great smells to them. So I always think about the smells of Christmas, for instance. Cinnamon is a really awesome option as a carminative herb. Ginger is another really great carminative herb option. And then other components like rosemary is a good choice. Any of our mints are really excellent choices. And my personal favorite is fennel. Fennel is probably one of my top choices because the fennel itself is a little bit more soothing and calming. It doesn't have as much of a heating component as some of our other carminative options. And it also is a little bit more like neutral, I guess, in nature. So it doesn't have other side effects like peppermint might, for example. Peppermint can actually exacerbate GERD or acid reflux, which if you already have bloating, we don't want to accidentally make you worse by triggering something else to occur. And that's why it's so important to speak with a trained professional who really understands the ins and outs and has the ability to match you to a solution that would really work for you. Other options when it comes to ditching the bloat is really diagnosing where the bloating is coming from. So if it's due to SIBO, if it's due to food sensitivities or reactivity, if it's due to certain food choices, like maybe you're just managing to get too much carbonation into your diet and it's something as simple as that. We really want to understand the underbelly so again we can get you like that long lasting solution. So those are just a few things to consider when it comes to easy ways to ditch the bloating that doesn't whittle down to just gas X, because sometimes it's just not enough. I hope that helps. If you have any other questions, drop them below and I'll make sure I get to those too.